Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Welcome to another exciting episode of SpeakIn's Managing Change series, where we bring you knowledge from the finest of experts. My name is Himanshu, and I hope that you are doing great and enjoying the warm weather. For our viewers on the East Coast, I really hope that you and your families are keeping safe. You've recently gone through a huge cyclonic storm, so I really hope that you are doing fine. Moving on to our guest for today definitely needs no introduction. However, I would still like to do the honors. It gives me an immense pleasure to introduce an extremely popular brand thinker. He has spent his career across the aggressive realms of FMCG, telecom, and consumer durables. He is considered a marketing practitioner and a thinker who is ahead of the consumer thinking curve year on year. He also teaches at the Indian School of Business, at the Hyderabad and Mohali campuses, and in addition to that, semesters at overseas business schools in the US and Europe. He recently published a book titled Marketing Trends, Smart Insights into the World of Indian Business, which is a serious book written in a style that is distinctly young. He has also published papers extensively on the subjects relating to strategic marketing, branding, consumer behavior, retail networks, rural marketing, marketing research, and trend analysis. Currently, he is running a unique boutique consulting outfit branded Harish Bijoor Consultants, a brand name that has a consulting presence across the markets of Hong Kong, Seattle, London, Istanbul, Dubai, and the Indian subcontinent. All the way from Bangalore, it is an honor, absolute honor to welcome Mr. Harish Bijoor. A very good evening, Mr. Bijoor, and I really hope that you are doing fine.
Thank you. Thank you, Himanshu. Let me commence, a very good evening to all the participants on this call. I'm going to be speaking to you today about the subject called new marketing realities, because marketing has changed, just as everything else around in our lives has changed. And I'm going to be talking to you about concepts, theories, and possibly a couple of thoughts, which are as fresh as COVID-19 is, in the sense that, everything that I'm going to talk to you about is contemporary, is possibly, hopefully, bleeding edge, and hopefully cutting edge, if not bleeding edge. Fundamentally because the definitions of our lives have changed very, very dramatically. And as these definitions have changed, I think you and I need to understand change and possibly grapple every single issue there is to grapple on change and take those baby steps forward in the great world market by and large. Therefore, what am I doing? I'm doing a webinar. What a horrible thing to do. I love doing 1:1 chats. I love doing, 1:many sessions. Possibly if this was not COVID call, as I call it, we'd be sitting in a hotel and possibly we would be chatting 1:many. But that is not to be, and that is the new reality of COVID call. This happens to be my 91st webinar in the lockdown era. Okay, I'm not very proud of that, because 91 in about 62 days is like I've been doing 1.5 webinars every single day. But the subject of each of these webinars has been a different one. And needless to say, I have kind of, looked at the subject of today to be different as well, which really says new marketing realities. Now, I have always believed that power corrupts and PowerPoint corrupts absolutely. And therefore, I don't like to use PowerPoint, and I will not use a PowerPoint in a webinar, because, that would be a horrible thing to do, to occupy bandwidth and your time with a PowerPoint presentation. Therefore, this is going to be an animated discussion, a discussion in which I'm going to be talking to you. I'm going to be telling you some of my thoughts, some of my latest sets of thoughts, which I do believe are important for you and I as marketing people in the great Indian and world marketplace. Therefore, it can get to be a bit pedantic at times, fundamentally because you are looking at me for the next 45 minutes. I'm going to be coming at you, with thoughts and thoughts and thoughts. Now, how do I break the ennui, the boredom? And therefore, I've simply done one thing, that I have picked up a razor, which is something which was lying around in my house, and I have picked up a post-it pad and I have made labels which will keep coming at you. For instance, the subject title for today is New Marketing Realities. So subject titles will come to you, break the monotony of this boring face looking at you. And I will keep bringing these labels just to kind of tell you that I'm switching subjects from one to the other. But the subject of the morning, evening at this point of time is new marketing realities. The reality is that, hey, listen, this is a new dawn. This is a new era. This is a new world ahead of us. Yes, we haven't been able to step out of our homes for a long period of time and go and peep and see what and how this new era is panning out. But I think we can think. This has been a pause moment for a lot of us. COVID call has been a pause moment. The lockdown has been a pause moment. It has helped us get off the treadmill of our busy corporate lives, and it's helped us to sit back and think and say, hey, listen, guys, what is happening around? How is the world changing? How is my life going to change? And how is the life of my consumer going to change? Therefore, the subject that I'm going to deal with today is going to be about marketing change and marketing realities. I have a total of 216 researched items during COVID call, which means to say that I and my company have been very, very busy trying to do e-research, trying to find out from customers what they think as to how they will react post-COVID call. Out of these 216, I might have the time to just present 3 or 4 of those to you. But that's fine, because it's not the width of what I present, but it's the depth into which each of those title slides that I take you through will be able to be explored. So stay with me and be patient for a while. This is a comma moment. This is not a full stop moment. And that is the beauty of COVID call. It's not a full stop moment. It is a comma. A comma which tells us, get off your high horse, dear marketer. Dear marketer, you have gone berserk. Dear marketer, you have gone from the sublime to the ridiculous. You have come out with propositions which are crazy. You have come out with propositions at times which have said that I give you, dear consumer, an honest shirt. How can a shirt be honest? Well, nobody asked that, but there was and there is something called the honest shirt. Hey, listen, guys, I have given you a toothpaste with oxygen in it. Toothpaste with oxygen in it? Yeah, a beautiful concept. The advertising, if you looked at it, showed a couple, a dating couple, a boy and a girl dating one another, sitting in a restaurant, both of them walk in, and there's a round table. On the round table is a candle lit, and the boy is sitting this side and the girl is sitting this side, both looking into one another's eyes, and the girl opens her mouth to talk, and boom goes the candle. You know why? Because there was oxygen in the toothpaste. The girl brushed her teeth with this in this morning. Hey, listen, sublime to the ridiculous. I've got 21 examples of such movements from the sublime to the ridiculous. Just to say, dear marketer, get off the high horse, redefine marketing realities, redefine marketing priorities, keep your finger on the pulse of the consumer and find out what he, she, or they want and give him, her, or them exactly what they want. And therefore, COVID-19 and COVID call is a moment to redefine marketing altogether. I'm going to be writing extensively on this in the future. But at this point of time, let me ventilate some thoughts. And let's go with the first thought. Marketing reality is actually driven by 4 factors or 4 players in any economy. The first is the government of the country. The government defines what and how marketing must be. Most of the time, very subliminally. Most of the time, not overtly, but covertly. The government is an important player in the world of marketing. 2, the second player is the bank. Banks play a very important role in marketing. They lend money. They lend money to manufacturers. They lend money to consumers. They spur the economy to create products and services, and they spur the economy to be able to buy those products and services. So 1, the government, 2, the banks, and 3, it is businesses. Businesses like yours and mine and possibly we are manufacturers, we are marketers, we are advertisers. We sell our propositions to consumers. And businesses, when they sell, they make money. And that money goes to fuel more consumption in a circuitous, virtuous cycle kind of a manner of speaking. And the fourth entity is the consumer, the most important entity in marketing, the consumer. And this consumer in COVID call is sitting on a rooftop, on a hot tin roof. And there's plenty happening in our lives. And the plenty that's happening in our lives are as follows. Hey, listen, I happen to have a problem. This is April. And on April 1st, normally by the 7th of April, I get a letter which gives my increment. This year, I did not get my increment. That's a problem. Okay, guys, if you didn't get an increment this year, be happy. Because there's another guy who got a decrement of 30%. Ouch. So you are better off than that guy. And guess what? There's yet another guy who was told go on leave and you'll get no pay for 3 months. Ouch. In the old concept, we had a thought called jobless growth. Today, we have a new concept called payless jobs. Payless jobs. A person has a job, but is not possibly getting his or her pay. Okay. You, my dear friend, who didn't get an increment, who didn't get a decrement, are better off than this payless job guy. Hey, one more guy. The pink call that's coming through in droves. The pink slip is today a pink call. It's a pink Zoom call at times, and people dread to pick that call because jobs are being lost. Therefore, we live in very, very tough times. When there are no jobs or when there's a decrement, there is a less propensity to want to spend because you don't have enough disposable income. Less disposable income, there is a downgrading factor affecting our lives. We are downgrading from the brands we used to partake. We're using less of those. Maybe the celebratory economy is dead, and I think that is a serious, serious consumer issue that is affecting us. Now, I would like to talk about the second point today in this webinar of mine, which is take marketing back. Take marketing back. What am I saying, guys? I'm really looking at the macroeconomic scenario. If you really look at the macroeconomic scenario, you will understand that governments have a role in marketing. How? If I really look at it, I would draw a large circle of this manner. And if I draw a large circle in this manner, I would say the outermost entity in that circle, the outermost circle is the government. And the government dictates what banks must do. Banks is the inner circle. And banks dictate what businesses must do. That's an inner circle. And consumers are the innermost circle sitting there. This is the current scenario. The government is the outermost circle. The next to the banks, and the third entity is really businesses, and the fourth entity is the consumer. Hey, listen, guys, we need to take marketing back to what it was. What's the meaning of that? Take marketing back because the outermost circle that I draw, it must be the consumer. The consumer is the outermost circle. The inner circle is the business. The businesses must listen to the consumer. Consumers must dictate businesses. And the inner circle to the businesses are the banks. Banks must listen to businesses to fuel businesses further. And the innermost circle is the government. Because at the end of the day, the government doesn't have too much of scope in touching marketing. So I'm saying between the two circles, in COVID call, we have the government in the outer circle and the consumer in the innermost circle. Post-COVID call, we need to take marketing back. And when you take marketing back as a company, as a marketer, you are going to put the consumer in the outermost circle. Because after all, the consumer is the largest entity in society. But guys, we have a problem. There was a movie, and this is a movie title. It says, Honey, we shrunk the economy in this case. Honey, we shrunk the economy. Yes, the economy shrunk. And that is the key aspect I need to talk to you about. The economy shrunk. The economy shrunk because we are on a basics orientation today. The celebratory economy is dead. We are redefining the wants and the needs of people as priorities over the desires and aspirations of people. Desires and aspirations are not important during COVID Kal. What's important is the needs and the wants of the people. And therefore, there's a downgrading syndrome, there is a replacement syndrome, there is frugalism, as I call it. Hashtag frugalism. What is this? I'm getting more frugal. I mean, I used to drink 6 cups of tea. I'm going to drink maybe 4 cups of tea a day. Okay, frugalism. I used to load my toothbrush fully as they show in the advertisement, with toothpaste. But today I might use only half of it, or use the Indian tendency of zarasa. Whatever it is, what you and I are doing is we are creating frugalism. And frugalism is possibly going to hurt the economy in the days to come. So be a marketer. We need to redefine the reality of marketing, where frugalism is a new thinking pattern coming ahead. Value is down. What really happens is premium price products are going to be down. Value is down, but volume is up. The basic economy is about volume. And the non-essentials economy is about value. And that non-essentials economy doesn't exist too robustly today. Therefore, volume is up, value is down. GDPs of the countries around us are down. Okay, there are countries which are going to shrink at about 6.2%. And guess what? India is one of them. We're likely to have a shrinkage of a dramatic 6.2% in the year ahead, which means we are in a recessionary phase. So if you really look at it, the R word is around us, which means that recession is hitting us. Less money to spend, less jobs, pay less jobs, as I said, high unemployment. If we look around, there are going to be lots of job losses, which means high unemployment. And high unemployment means less salaries. Less salaries means less money in the market to chase products and services that you and I make. Therefore, we need to define and redefine the economy. Sectors are down. There are several sectors which I call COVID ostracism sectors. The ice cream sector is a COVID ostracism sector. Nobody wants to eat an ice cream. Ice cream is considered to be cold. COVID is a cold storage, not a great thing. We are a paranoid sets of consumers. We wash everything that comes out of a cold storage. That business of the milk sachet coming in the morning, you take it, put it under a tap, use soap, clean up, and then empty the milk out of the packet. The paranoid consumer. If you really look at it, startups are shutting down. You will have 8 out of 10 startups in non-functional territories and terrains shutting down. And what happens to that economy? There is a bust there. Mergers are going to be the norm. Acquisitions, mergers, definitely going to be the norm. As all this happens, I think, we are really looking at a very, very tough phase in our lives. And therefore, what are the sets of thoughts that I think you and I should share? And I'm going to share, as I said, 4 or 5 sets of thoughts. One of my first pieces, which I've already spoken about in a past webinar, is this concept of mine, which I title The Oyster is Your World. The oyster is your world. What do I mean by this? In the old days, when you would go out and start a career, you were told, young man, young woman, go out there. The world is your oyster. The world is your oyster. But no, I have done a tweak on this in COVID Kal. The world is not your oyster anymore, because the world is a risky place to go out into, with physical distancing being the norm. And for the moment, the oyster is your world. What's the meaning? The oyster is your home, and your home is the world. Any business that comes into your home is going to do exceedingly well. So look at the businesses that you do. Look at the companies you work with. Are you a business which takes products and services into the homes of people? Or are you a business that makes people to come out and partake of your products and services? Are you an e-commerce business which delivers into the home? Are you an OTT business which delivers into the home? Are you anything that goes into the home? Well, wonderful. Are you the bandwidth business? Great. Are you a Zoom call? Great. Are you facilitating an in-home lifestyle? Great. The oyster is a business center point because the oyster is your home and the oyster is your world. And it so happens that the oyster, your home, is the place where you live. The home is your place where you work. 92.3% of ITES companies have moved seamlessly in 6 days into work from home cultures. Even others have gone into work from home cultures. The home is where you live. The home is the point where you live. The home is the point of working. The home is the point of entertainment. The home is the point of exercising. The home is the point of literally everything. And therefore, businesses, marketing is going to get redefined. Every marketing company needs to have two avatars, needs to have an outdoor avatar and an indoor avatar. And you might want to say they are the yin and the yang of the entire process of marketing. Okay, guys, in the process, extremely important to look at yet another label. I call it, reinvent marketing. Reinvent marketing. You have to reinvent marketing. Why must you reinvent marketing? Because old marketing, the way you and I marketed in the past, just does not work. You have to reinvent marketing. Why would you reinvent marketing? Because marketing is not a static process. The environment has changed. People have changed. Times have changed. Consumers have changed. The government has changed in its entire environment in terms of managing the environment, in terms of taking care of the environment. So if you really look at it, businesses need to change. And here I have an old theory of mine, which I call the Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara theory in branding. I believe when you think of brands, when you manage brands, there are three things to do. One is the Brahma role. The Brahma role is that of the creator. You create a brand. After creating the brand, you take the Vishnu role, that of the preserver of the brand. And after going through that for a cycle of time, when the time comes, like the time has come now, you have to adopt the Maheshwara role of being a destroyer of the brand. So my Maheshwara concept is simply to say that you must destroy your brand to recreate out of it something that is relevant for the new world. And I think COVID Kal is that Maheshwara moment which has come to our doorstep. It's a big time for innovation. COVID Kal is a big time for innovation. We've set up mask manufacturing facilities in Tirupur. We have three kinds of masks. One is premium masks, which go to the Gucci's of the world. And then there are the middle class masks, which might go to any brand in an urban city which you have. And then you'll have the common man's mask, which will cost 10 rupees. 10 rupee mask, 120 rupees per mask, and then 25,000 rupees per mask. Guess what, guys? That's, making a process out of the turmoil that we are in and trying to say that, hey, listen, guys, businesses need to reinvent themselves. We have a sari client of ours. Let me take a client of that nature who I can speak about, because other innovations I can't speak because of my NDAs with the clients. This has been a very, very innovative phase for us because we've taken innovation into the client's home, into the den, and they have changed. The sari client has got a sari, and the sari has got a mobile pocket in it, and the mobile pocket with it, he gives a fall free. And in addition to that, he gives a blouse piece free. And in addition to that, there is a mask which is matching with that same silk design, which goes free. Not one mask, but 6 masks which go with it. Hey, listen, guys, these are small innovations. There are bigger ones. Unfortunately, can't talk about many of them. The world is in a flux. The world is in an Amrit Manthan phase. And this Amrit Manthan phase is going to affect us quite dramatically in a very intrusive manner. A lot of us need to wake up and say, this Amrit Manthan, this churn that's happening in our marketing lives needs to be witnessed, and we need to make changes, and we need to arrive at the fact that the consumer has new marketing philosophies. The consumer has got new marketing philosophies out there, my dear friends. What are these new marketing philosophies? We have moved from an era of people asking hurriedly, what is the time? What is the time? Because we are time run people. What is the time? What is the time? You've always looked at the time on your mobile phones, on your watch, or you have asked someone, what is the time? From there, what is the time culture? We come to a culture of what is time? What is time? What is time? My dear friends, my recent research, which is as fresh as 2 days old into consumer psyche, says people are getting to be reasonably more fatalistic than they ever were. Ouch. This meant that in the old days, you and I thought you and I would never die. We are living beings and we celebrate in a celebratory economy. We are doing gung-ho. Life is great. But all of a sudden, one virus has put the thought in our heads that, hey guys, you are finite beings. You can be affected by something as dramatic as a virus, and life may not be something that prolongs. My dear friends, I think we just read this morning in the newspapers that there are young people who are writing wills at the age of 25 and 35. Hey guys, all of a sudden, consumers are getting very finite oriented. For finite days, marketing needs to adopt and adapt a finite set of feelings, a finite set of emotions, a finite set of theories. Every theory that looks at the finite, every emotion that looks at the finite, and every emotion that celebrates the finite. So finite definitions of want, need, desire, and aspirations. People are asking questions, why must I have things that I must not? If I asked each one of you, how many of you have got one television set in your house? All of you would raise your hand and say, I have one television set. How many of you have two in your house? Maybe 50% of the audience would raise your hand. How many of you have three? And somebody in your house doesn't work at a Samsung or an LG. I mean, there might be still a few people, maybe about 1% of the audience saying, I have three television sets. Why must you have three television sets at all? Why must you have two television sets at all? Hair dryers. How many hair dryers are in your house? Please do an audit. Interesting. Gadgetry of every kind. How many mobile phones are there in your house? What is the per capita ownership of mobile phones in the home? Okay. Now, I'm not talking SIM cards, but actual phones. How many of those old mobile phones does a person have? So we just did a research exercise on a 50-year old person kind of a bracket, men and women, across 18 different cities in India. And guess what? We found out that these 50-year-old people who have been through several generations of mobile usage have got a total of 6 mobile handsets in their house even today, which they don't use at all. Because many of them are broken, but they still preserve it because India is a veritable museum of old stuff that we have. Selling of the unnecessities, that is going to come under question. Why must I buy something that's totally unnecessary for me? Why should I use something that's unnecessary? People are going to ask hard questions. What went to make this? Ouch. People are actually going to ask, how much of water was taken to manufacture this item? Ouch. How much of labor went into manufacture this pair of stone-washed jeans? How much of water went into that stone-washed jeans? Does that mean stone-washed jeans will go out of fashion? I don't know. Maybe yes. Maybe people are going to be very, very particular as to asking questions on all this. Of course, all this sounds so new. And there's a possibility that public memory is proverbially and really short. Once COVID is over, we'll be back to our good old or the bad old ways. But I think you and I as marketeers need to be much more responsible. And we need to play to the gallery of what the consumer wants out there. And possibly we need to block this moment of time and say more real marketing needs to come in to play in the game, to play the game that you and I are wanting to play. Why do you work for? What do you work for? The pursuit of happiness? Well, that's a question again. And we have a separate research on it. Hopefully, if I have time at a later point of time in the session, I'll talk about it. Otherwise, we'll just skip that. My dear friends, if you really look at it, there's yet another thing which is back in our lives. Vision is back. Vision. Every company has a vision and mission statement. It's back in focus. Vision, mission, back in focus. Every government must have a vision. Every state government must have a vision. Every panchayat must have a vision. Every local self-governance structure must have a vision. And that's going to come back. Not only governments, every bank must have a vision. Every business must have a vision. Maybe you have. Every individual, you must have a vision. Consumers in the future are going to have a vision statement culled out about themselves, and they're going to enshrine it in their biodatas or in their CVs, their resumes. What is your vision statement? And that's going to indicate how macro a thinker are you or how micro a thinker are you. The more macro you are, you think of the cosmos. So I have a theory, and this is a theory I built about 11 years ago. Out of a research exercise I carried out across some 23,700 and odd people across India. And we found there are several kinds of people. There's one kind of a person who sits, if I draw a circle, he sits in the innermost circle. And this person who sits in the innermost circle is a person who thinks only about I, me, myself. He sits in the innermost circle. There are lots of people in society who are like that. And every few years, you can do an audit of the numbers in your country, and you can decide what percentage of the population is I, me, myself centric. By the way, think about yourself as well. Are you I, me, myself centric? Maybe you are. Out of the entire audience, maybe 50% of you are I, me, myself centric. Well, draw a circle outside of that. And if you draw a circle outside of that, there is the I and my family of 5.5 people. 5.5? Yeah, that's what the census numbers indicate. There's an average of 5.5 people in an average Indian home. I've been to many homes, never found that half a person. But that's the joke I normally throw to say that, that's how statistics are. Every house has 5.5 people. And I have drawn I, me, myself around that I and my family of 5.5. If I ask you this question, my dear friend, I give you a challenge that at least 89% of this audience will say, I am concerned about my inner circle of I and my family of 5.5. Full stop. 89% of the audience is that way in our country. And this is as per that research exercise I carried out. Draw an outer circle around that. So it's I. Next circle, my family of 5.5. Next circle, my community, my locality. Next circle, my city. Next circle, my country. Next circle, the world. Next circle, the cosmos. My dear friends, if 89% of the people in India are bothered about I, me, myself, and my family of 5.5, only 11% of people are bothered about the other circles, which simply means to say that the majority of our customers are I, me, myself centric, and my family of 5.5. Well, that's the way it is. But there are 5 countries in the world which are cosmos starters, who say my first concern is the cosmos, my second is the world, my third concern is my country, my fourth concern is my city, my fifth concern is my locality, my sixth concern is my family, and my seventh concern is I, me, myself. These 5 countries, none of us belong to these 5 countries. Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, and the Netherlands. 5 countries. But suffice to say that we are very, very concerned about ourselves. But you know what this vision is all about? This vision statement that I told you about? We are getting community conscious, my dear friends. We are forced to become community conscious. You're concerned about your city. Every day you're looking up in the newspapers, which you don't touch anymore. But maybe online, you're looking at it and saying, how many cases of COVID-19 have occurred in my city? Well, why are you asking that question, my dear friends? You're asking that question because you want to know how many are affected and how can I be affected? Am I in a red zone of your, green zone or orange zone of your? Is my area a containment zone? I'm very worried. You go walking outside, then you meet friends from your apartments around you. You say, how are you? I hope you're well. Genuinely asking that question. Guess what? There's a vicarious need to know how your neighbor is, because if your neighbor is well, you are well. COVID-19 has created an artificial forced community orientation in society. And what's the meaning of that? It simply means to say that I'm concerned about my community all of a sudden. I'm not only concerned about I, me, myself, and my family of 5.5, but I'm concerned about my community as well. Because if my community is well, I am well. And therefore, I have an analogy there. You know, many years ago, we had the dengue scare across the country. And at that point of time, I had put together an analogy and I had written about it as well. And this was my dengue mosquito analogy. The dengue mosquito, which is the Aedes aegypti mosquito, breeds in water bodies which are stagnant. And many of these water bodies could be in the slums around your houses. And your slums around your houses, you're not concerned because you live in a gated enclave. You have a security guard out there. You have a boom barrier with lifts up and down. You live in nice brick and mortar houses. Everything is hunky-dory. But just outside your house, there is the slum. And in the slum, the Aedes aegypti breeds. And the Aedes aegypti goes and bites children in the slum and women and men in the slum. And they get dengue. And then after that, the blood-sucking mosquito flies seamlessly through your boom barrier in your gated enclave and comes and bites you. Guess what, guys? The Aedes aegypti mosquito doesn't know classes, doesn't know where people live, and guess what? This is why communities are forced to take care of their neighborhoods. Because if you don't take care of your neighborhood will take care of you. Extremely critical to ensure that your concern and my concern as marketeers should be about not only I, me, myself, and my family of 5.5, but it should go wider and wider circles. In India, at this point of time, we're still stuck with I, me, myself, and my family of 5.5. So if you really look at it, I think, you know, the entire selfish inclusiveness is the concept, I would call it. You know, we're getting inclusive just because there is a certain selfish motive in getting inclusive. Marketing and marketeers need to wake up. And a lot of marketeers are working today. I work with a fair number of clients. And in fact, the last 62 days have been very, very busy because everybody's in a flux and everybody wants ideas. And that's the point of time when you're creating ideas and thoughts for communities and for marketeers to say that this is what you should do on community management. Therefore, the future of marketing lies in community management. And managing it not for any esoteric reasons, because people don't do things for esoteric reasons, but for selfish inclusiveness as a concept. The next thing I'd like to talk to you over the next several minutes, because I have another 7 minutes to go before I take your questions and answers. The next thing I'd like to talk to you about is the business of the poor. The poor business, I call it poor business. My dear friends, much of the time, marketers don't look at the poor businesses at all, because the poor don't contribute to marketing economies. It's the rich who contribute to the marketing economies. It's the middle class who contribute to marketing economies. The poor are the last in the entire hierarchy of marketing economies. Not anymore, guys. I think every company, every marketing company must have a yin and yang kind of an approach, a portfolio approach where you will have products for the rich and products for the poor. Because we live in a world which is very, very complex. The entire world is, let's theoretically call it, there are a total of 7.6 billion people in the world. 7.6 billion. The top 2 billion are the rich, and the bottom 5.6 billion are poor. Let's simplify it and say there are 7 billion people in the world. The top 2 billion people are rich. The bottom 5 billion people are poor. The idea simply is that the rich must take care of the poor. because the poor will never become rich if the rich don't take care of the poor. Therefore, 2 billion people of the world must take care of 5 billion people of the world, which means 1 billion people of the world must take care of 2.5 billion people of the world, which means that one human being must take care of 2.5 human beings who are poor. And I think that seems to be the way of marketing, looking at creating products and services which cater to the poor. The business of the poor is a rich business of the future. And that rich business is what marketing needs to redefine and say, I'm interested in creating that business, because marketers of today create markets of tomorrow. Marketers of today create markets of tomorrow. And this is a marketing investment that every company needs to look at and create for the future. Last 2 points. Desiism. Desiism. My dear friends, Desiism. What is Desiism? I wrote this paper on Desiism a couple of years ago. In 2018, I published an article called Desi Revival. I think it was in the Economic Times. And at that point of time, I had said that Desi Revival is going to happen in a big way. At that point of time, it was looked at as, it's happened before. The Vidarbha movement was there, but it went out of fashion. But Desi revival, hey, listen, it may or may not happen. But believe it or not, at this point of time, the Prime Minister of the country, Mr. Narendra Modi, has said, vocal for local. Oh, vocal for local. And when the PM of the country says something like that, a lot of companies take action. Vocal for local is going to become an action point across 4 constituents. The first constituent is the corporate action. The corporate action is going to be that corporates are going to find out how local they are and how global they are. And if they're too global, or if their ownership is very MNC oriented, they will really look at creating a new image for themselves. So there are 3 types of companies in the country. One is a multinational corporation, and the second is an Indian multinational corporation, and the third is a small Indian company. All the 3 of them are going to redefine, and they're going to fight with one another. The multinational is going to start wanting to look more Indian, and that's where I'm getting bulk of my money in recent times, because of everybody wants to reorient their multinational brands to look more local. And the local Indian company is going to say, no, they are not local. And it's going to invest a lot of money telling people we are more local than them. And the small company is going to also say the same thing. And over a period of time, expect marketing action to be occupied by corporate action of this kind. The second action is government action. The government might say, we buy only desi. Our canteen stores department will not keep anything which is Videshi. Ouch. What happens to your single malt guys? What happens to a lot of your brands which are Videshi? Which simply means to say that it's going to be a fillip to anything that is India made. India made foreign liquor. IMFL. Please note, that's one category. There are 211 categories which are totally India made. And I think there's going to be a revival there. So the second action you can expect in marketing is government action. First is corporate action, I told you. Second is government action. And the third action is retail action. Expect retailers to tell you tomorrow that we stock only desi goods, which means to say that they're going to negotiate with companies and say, your brand is sounding very foreign. I can't keep it. I'm not sure if you're foreign or not, but if you want me to keep it, give me 25% margin. Ouch. Retailers are good at that. The fourth piece of action is consumer action. Now, the consumer action is where the consumer finally decides whether he or she is interested in local or global. And I think at the end of the day, what the consumer says will win. So if you really look at it, all these pieces of action are going to happen in our lives, in our very lifetimes, and each one of us is going to experience the excitement of revivalism of every new way of marketing. Concepts are going to get reinvented. Thoughts are going to get reinvented in marketing. Philosophies are going to get reinvented in marketing. Old marketing is dead. Long live old marketing. Old marketing is dead. Which means to say you and I are the future who need to take care of how new marketing roles are. which means to say that you need to reinvent yourself and I need to reinvent myself. And that's the exact 45-minute kind of alarm which I had set, and I'm ready to take questions from you. Thanks. Over to Himanshu.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mr. Bijoor. That was phenomenal. That was actually fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. I can understand you must be really tired since you've been speaking since the last 45 minutes. But I particularly found the discussion I particularly found the session very useful, and I really like that bit about the small post-its that you use. It's a very novel concept, very simple but very novel. So I really personally really like this thing. Take marketing back, exactly. So I can see a couple of questions from our attendees here. I'll start with the first question. The first question that I can see is from Mr. Abhay Narang. And Abhay is asking that for one's business, the personal brand and the corporate brand are heavily interlinked. How can one utilize this time to build their personal brand? A very interesting question indeed. I mean, because this is the time when a lot of people are actually looking forward to maintain, building their own social media profile, building their own brand. So how does one, go about it? What are
Abhay, a very good question, Abhay. If you really look at it, many businesses are umbilically linked to the personal brand of the individual. It could be a promoter, it could be a CEO, it could be a passionista of that particular business for anything. For instance, Patanjali Ayurveda is synonymous with Baba Ramdev. Okay, and to an extent, Baba Ramdev's image is Patanjali Ayurveda's image. Acharya Balakrishna, to an extent, also coming into the situation. So if you really look at it, how should you manage yourself? My entire ethos and personal branding is integrity, integrity, integrity. See, these are tough times. COVID call is tough times. We are going through very tough times. In these tough times, you must make sure that every ounce of what you say is weighed on the touchstone of integrity. Anything that you say must be honest, straightforward, to the heart, and without couching it in anything that is marketing speak. Marketing speak, advertising speak, because sometimes marketing goes too far. I told you that business about oxygen in the toothpaste goes too far. Marketing, at times people tend to say marketing, oh, you're in advertising. Oh, I know. I need to take only 30% of what you say to be true. Can that happen? No. In tough times, invest in your personal branding on the font of integrity. Look real. Look real, be real, don't force the pace, and I think you will not go wrong. Thanks. Himanshu?
Fantastic. Very well put and very well answered, Mr. Bijoor. I have my next question, which is coming from Mr. Arjun Yadav. And Arjun is asking that luxury services such as airlines and hospitality, I mean, it's a luxury these days, of course, but, which were once a high-touch service with the tika and garland and everything. So what do you suggest would be the equivalent of this in the COVID call? Very interesting question. Okay. And very specific question.
Yes, absolutely. Arjun, good one. See, the hospitality sector has suffered a lot and aviation has suffered a lot. We will come back. We'll get back a lot of the losses that has occurred. But what's going to happen is, in each of our businesses, particularly in hospitality, I work on 2 hospitality brands. The first thing the hospitality CEO told me was, we believe in touch points. Whenever I started work with them, I've been working with them for 11 years, both one 11 years, another 7 years. Touch points. Yeah. Marketing has something called touch points. Hospitality has touch points. You get out of the car, there is a garland, the lady is waiting, and you're getting something to drink. They give you a warm handshake. They put a shawl around you at sometimes, and then they take you to the room. They get you your key at the counter, take you straight up, do a check-in there, send you that complimentary watermelon juice. Ouch. Problem. Today is the day and age we move from touch points to zero touch. Zero touch seems to be the new ethos, which simply means to say that entire platform of personalization is going to get replaced by digitization. Digitalism is the new religion which is touching our lives. Every step you take, every breath you take, digital is going to touch you. Which means to say that I want to check in at the Taj in Mumbai, And all I do is I actually have checked in. I have asked for a reservation on my app, the Taj app, and I've got a booking. And once I go, I even check in. The moment I land at the airport, I say I want to check in. They've allocated the room to me electronically, and they've sent me an e-key, which is on my phone. And I just walk in, and even as I walk in, there are RFID scanners, and there are scanners which can actually read the fact that I have a booking, that I am in room 1101. The doors open seamlessly. There's no need for any further key. That e-key is your key to survival in the hotel till you're checked in. And then you go to your room and you walk in there and off you go. And then I sit down and lie down in the bed and I order my favorite dishes. I've ordered a kakori kebab, and the kakori kebab lands up at my doorstep, but nobody comes in. There is a trolley left in front of my door and I have to go and pull in the trolley. The trolley is totally sanitized. There's a small little card on it. The small little card says, this is the temperature of the chef who made it. This is the temperature of the guy who actually wheeled it in. And after you finish, kindly give us an e-call and we'll get the whole thing taken off. Hey guys, from touch points to zero touch. That's the new reality, Arjun. Thanks. Himanshu?
Fantastically answered. I mean, it's really great to see, whatever you just mentioned, probably, at one point of time used to be the dream of a, person who's probably making a sci-fi movie, and right now we are living this reality. So very well answered. It's probably the transition phase that we are stepping into the future. So I have my next question. I unfortunately do not have the name of the person. The person is asking that what are the products or services that existed pre-COVID but probably would not revive and perish after the COVID era is done and dusted.
Okay. Actually, I would not worry about any category that existed in the past which will perish in the future. Because the first point is public memory is proverbially and really short. The second point is that we are all looking for products and services which I call "Aa Bel Mujhe Maar" kind of products. "Aa Bel Mujhe Maar" kind of products. What's the meaning of it? Bull, please come and butt me kind of products. Means these are products which are not good for me, but I am hooked to it. Therefore, there's a certain addiction to certain kinds of products which will never go out of fashion. So pre-COVID, post-COVID, I wouldn't really worry about it. But the point is that in the products that you want to create post-COVID, there are extremely exciting opportunities out there. I wish I could speak about some of the new things which you created for bigger companies. Because, with the bigger companies, you have an NDA and you can't even transgress that, and it would be wrong for me to share any of the thoughts. But classically different products, completely diametrically opposed products which we have never seen before, going to hit the market. Not later, but sooner. Which means that it's actually going to happen in the next 2 months. We're going to have these products coming out there. And if you look at it in the unorganized sector, you will see, all the mask makers, how quickly have they come out? First of all, they came out with surgical masks. Then they came out with duplicates of surgical masks. Then when surgical masks were not supposed to be worn by normal people, they came out with cloth masks. The cloth masks were single layer, they became double layer, they became triple layer. The triple layer cloth masks had filter paper in between them. The triple layer cloth mask with nozzles came in. Then came the fact that people can't see one another with masks, so the transparent mask comes in. The transparent mask is also, a little uncomfortable to wear. So now we have got masks which you take your photograph, you give it to the scanner scans your photograph, and the lower portion which is covered by the mask, that is printed on that mask. So when you wear it, it's a customized of your face. If you have a mustache, and if it has salt and pepper on that mustache, the mask will have salt and pepper on the mustache. And when somebody looks at your face, they actually recognize who you are. Have you had not that problem? Where today, if you're wearing a mask, you don't know who that is. Because faces are recognition points. And most of the time, only the eyes don't let you know who they are, or the hairstyle. In my case, I get recognized because of a particular hairstyle. But in many cases, if the mouth so much is covered, you can hardly recognize them. And therefore, in come these innovations. In that category, which is the lowest common denominator category called mass, there's so much innovation. Imagine how much of innovation will come in every sector. So, don't worry about any product that will go out of fashion. Get concerned and besotted with products which are going to become very, very fashionable. Once again, something we never imagined, but something that takes off. EdTech. In EdTech, if you will see, EdTech platforms have gone crazy. In communication technology like Zoom and WebEx and things like that, they've all gone crazy. Yeah, there are some spaces we're worried about, right? Commercial office spaces. What happens to them? Because, if 92.3% of all ITES companies in the big 8 cities have moved seamlessly into work from home, what will happen to workspaces? Because many of them will not come back. Even if 50% of those people who work from home don't come back, 50% of the offices will remain as shells. And then companies have brilliant ideas. They will say, we'll stagger working. We don't need so much space. What happens to them? Even they shall bounce back. And there are excellent ideas happening in the realm of real estate. I work in real estate quite deeply. And there are excellent, brilliant ideas for office spaces to come back. I work with a newspaper client at this point of time. Newspapers are affected badly. I mean, in many cities, only 20% of the people in the city are getting newspapers. They're going to come back. I work in the ice cream industry. There are going to be brilliant ideas in ice cream, which are going to come back. Unfortunately, we can't speak about many of these, and we can only talk about the exciting ones, all those robos, those iRobo, floor cleaners, etc., etc. But there's much more in the marketing days ahead. So very exciting times ahead. Yep, Himanshu.
Perfect. Very well answered. And yes, I think we have just time for just one last question.
Sure.
And after that, maybe we can just finish. So this is a very different question from what we've been talking about. And this question is from Sajal. And Sajal is asking that mental health in a country like India, as we see, has been something that has been ignored since a very long time. What are the marketing or branding techniques that one can apply to trigger the urge in people to be on board and raise their voices and find help by being connected with the best of the therapists? A very interesting question. And mental health certainly has become an issue which has being more talked about during this COVID thing, because a lot of people have been facing isolation. Any views on that? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I have views, but the problem is that I have a client who I work with who runs a chain of mental health institutions which cater to mental health. We have some very exciting things coming up for him. So obviously anything that I talk will come from there and may not be a correct thing to do. Suffice to say that generically speaking, mental health is going to become the biggest issue ahead of us. If you look at the fact that we've been locked down for some 64, 65 days, please note that we have all taken a toll on our health, physical health. That is noticeable. Many of us have put on weight which we must not put on. Many of us have eaten all kinds of things. Many of us will suddenly go for blood tests and discover that we are diabetic or we are hypertensive. Let me not talk nonsense. Shubh shubh bolo, as they say. But the point is, it's a reality. And guess what, guys? In many, many cases, mental health affected badly. Do you know how sensitive people are now? I told you a research exercise that I carried out. One of the questions was, when did you fight with your spouse last? And how deep was the spouse? And we had a check question to say, before that, before the lockdown, how frequent were your fights? Believe it or not, mental health is deep concern. You have fought with your wife, your husband, and etc., or a partner who you live in with. The thing is, mental health is acute. A lot of us are under stress because of the lockdown. So mental health, big issue. Job losses, lots of people with lost jobs. Mental health, big issue. So mental health, if you're in that space, I think you're doing great service. And at the same time, there are fantastic opportunities for this service to go places.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, this was Mr. Harish Bijoor. You were listening to him. I really hope the conversation benefited you. It certainly did benefit me a lot, and it really opened a lot of new thought points that I can basically ponder upon later in the evening tonight. But thank you so much, Mr. Bijoor,
Thank you.
for your presence here, and thank you so much for sharing your valuable thoughts. It has been an honor having you with us.